Hey y'all, it's week 12 on Wegovy. And I don't know if you knew this, but January is actually National Soup Month. So we're going to be doing some soups this week. There is a reason that so many of the fad diets over the years have centered around eating soups. It's because it's a fantastic way to get a tasty, low-calorie meal in your belly. We're going to be doing this week some biscuits and gravy. Don't start. Gravy counts as a soup. We're going to do some Crockpot tortellini soup, some loaded baked potato soup, and then something I learned about my husband after 15 years of being together is that his favorite soup in the entire world is tomato bisque with ground beef in it. So we're gonna give that a shot. If you're interested in a detailed calorie and macro breakdown on everything I ate this week, you'll find a link to my MyFitnessPal food diary in the description below. All of the recipes will be in the description as well. If any of these recipes sound good to you, give me a like for the algorithm. I hope you enjoy the video. Let's get cooking. All right, we're going to start on these biscuits and gravy. So we're going to use some non-fat yogurt. The recipe calls for regular, but I have this Greek from other stuff that I did, so we may just need to add a little bit of extra liquid to the biscuit dough. Some salt, flour, some turkey breakfast sausage, baking soda. Recipe calls for skim milk, but you know we use cashew around here, a lot lower calorie, and honestly it's richer than skim milk, so it'll probably make this more delicious. Baking powder, black pepper. Recipe calls for seasoned salt. I don't have any like Lowry's seasoned salt, and if you watch my channel you know I love this Kinder's Buttery Steakhouse, so that's what we're going to use. All right, let's get going. All right guys, so we're going to start with the biscuits. Working on trying to make these videos a little more compact, so in here I have a cup of flour, half a tablespoon of baking powder, quarter teaspoon each of baking soda and salt. I'm just going to whisk them together so that I don't have any chunks of baking soda or baking powder. Also a trick to aerating your flour without having to sift it. All right, and then in here I have a half a cup plus 2 tablespoons of yogurt. I am having this recipe because I don't need 8 servings of this stuff. I'm going to be eating it for 4 days this week, so this should be the right amount for 4 biscuits. And then we're just going to fold this in until all of the dry is incorporated. Again, because I use Greek yogurt instead of standard yogurt, I may need to add a little more liquid, but we're just going to wait and see. Yeah, that looks like it's going to be a touch dry. You can always add more. It's awfully difficult to add less. So probably need to get my hand in here. I already found a pocket of yogurt in there. I don't want to go too crazy with working this because you don't want your biscuits to be tough.
You can always add more. It's awfully difficult to add less.
Oops. I am going to have a little bit of insurance. Yeah, that was too much. Oh well. This is going to be a little sticky now, but it's all right. I'm going to have a little bit of insurance against this being too tough because I am actually going to freeze these, not baked, so that I can have fresh baked biscuits every morning. So pretty much what I'm going to do is just take a baking sheet. I'm going to put some parchment paper on it. I'm going to put all 4 of these biscuits on that baking sheet, and then I'm going to stick them in the freezer. Once they're frozen, I'm going to take them out and just stick them in a bag. And then every morning I'll just take them out and toss one in my air fryer at 400 degrees. And it should only take a few minutes for them to bake up, and then I'll have fresh baked biscuits. All right, so these are drop biscuits. They don't need to be super fancy. Just gonna kind of try to get them biscuit shaped-ish. And that's all there is to it for the biscuits. Pretty quick and painless. All right, I'm gonna get these in the freezer. So in here I have 1 cup of cashew milk. I've got 2 tablespoons of flour. Again, I'm having the recipe. And then I have a half a teaspoon of the Buttery Steakhouse seasoning and about a quarter teaspoon of the fresh cracked black pepper. It says to wait to add the seasoning at the end. I don't really think that'll make a difference, so I'm doing it all at once. And they recommended to either whisk or throw it in a shaker. And I have a shaker, so I'm gonna try that. really see any chunks of flour left. So now we're just gonna brown up some turkey sausage, and then we'll add this and whisk it in, and voila.
You just wanna be with you till we grow old. Please tell me you'll stay or take me away. I want you for myself every single day. You set my world on fire. You set my world on fire. I don't know what.
And then we're gonna use, because this is non-stick, I'm gonna use a silicone whisk. I'm gonna pour that in there all at once.
My life was great till you added colors. Like the moon.
Yeah, that needs more. Sort of like a half a cup, I think. And gravy is another one of those personal preference things. I don't like mine quite that thick because cashew milk has so few calories. I'm not really worried about adding some extra. Yeah, that looks like a better texture to me. And it'll thicken up a little bit more. A little too kindergarten paste for me. And that needs more seasoning for me too. Buttery steakhouse stuff that I use doesn't have nearly as much salt as Lowry's does. So I'm not necessarily surprised that I need more salt. Should be good. I think that'll do it. And then in the mornings when I'm ready to have biscuits and gravy, all I need to do is pop one of those biscuits out of the freezer, stick it in my air fryer, and microwave up some of this gravy, and it'll be good to go. Let that cool off, and then I'll stick it in a container in the fridge. All right, so it's time to cook up those biscuits and heat up the gravy.
I know what it is you do. I just wanna love you, just wanna hold you, just wanna be with you till we grow old. Please tell me you'll stay or take me away. I want you for myself every single day. You set my world on fire. You set my world on fire.
All right, let's taste this biscuits and gravy. So the gravy is really good. I probably added a touch more pepper than it necessarily needed. It's really spicy, which I'm okay with, but the biscuit, so the texture looks nice. It's really crunchy on the outside. I'm kind of still doughy on the inside. I think tomorrow I'll try baking it in the regular oven. Because one of the problems with air fryers is the outside gets really crispy before the inside has a chance to cook all the way. The flavor is good though. I'm just going to have to tweak it a little bit more. Oh yeah, it's still doughy in the middle. It's not cooked all the way. Okay, well, I'll have to let you guys know on the screen what I did that ultimately ended up making these work. Because this isn't it. I'm not mad at the recipe. The alterations I made. I also added way too much cashew milk to it yesterday. You saw that. Which made it a lot doughier. Do you mind? No, sir. All right, let's get started on this tortellini soup. We're going to need some frozen cheese tortellini. I'm making some substitutions to make this a little more calorie friendly. I'm doing Neufchâtel instead of cream cheese. This is just a reduced fat cream cheese. Honestly, to me, it tastes exactly the same. I cannot tell the difference in texture or flavor. I'm using Italian style turkey sausage instead of pork. And we're doing Italian style diced tomatoes. I couldn't find Italian style diced tomatoes, but I found diced tomatoes with basil, garlic, and oregano. That sounds Italian style to me. And then we need what's that? A box of chicken broth. Mindy, it literally says it on the box. What's in the box? Let's make this. All right, this right here is one of the many reasons I prefer a multi-cooker to a crock pot. I can still cook in this as a slow cooker, but I'm not having to use a separate pan to brown my sausage. So here's a quick and dirty little trick when you're rear browning meat. That was probably too much. If you pour a little bit of water in with your meat, it helps to break it up a lot easier. Basically, you just can kind of stir it around and it breaks it up really fine. The only bad part is now you got to wait for that water to evaporate in order to brown it. But to me, it's worth it to not sit here and fuss with breaking this up into tiny pieces forever. So I'm gonna stir this around, break it up, and we're gonna get this sausage browned. The directions say to drain the sausage. I'm not gonna bother because I've already included all the calories for this, and fat is flavor. However, because this is turkey and not pork, there's really not going to be very much fat. This is probably going to be the easiest recipe I've ever had on my channel. I'm going to take my cream cheese and I'm going to cut it up into little cubes. We're not going to be adding the tortellini right away because it would be way overcooked by the time we're ready to eat it. We're basically going to let just the sausage, tomatoes, the neufchatel, the cream cheese, and the chicken broth go on low for about 4 hours or, you know, however long. And then about 20 or 30 minutes before you're ready to eat, you just add the tortellini in. The recipe also calls for spinach, but we've talked about how my husband feels about vegetables. If I was putting the greens in here, I would opt for kale. I think kale is a lot better in soup. If you've ever had Olive Garden Zuppa Toscana, it's our favorite soup at Olive Garden, and it is sausage and it has kale in it. Richard literally just sits there and fastidiously picks out every single fleck of green in his soup. So obviously all that liquid's not evaporated. I really don't care. It's soup. I'm just going to pour those tomatoes in. I'm going to pour this broth in. 4 cups, which is 32 ounces. That's this whole box. Dump in, or plop in, the little blobs of cream cheese. How could that possibly be bad? The answer is it can't. And we're just going to let that sit on low for at least 4 hours and let it get to know each other. Just kidding, I changed my mind. I know the recipe doesn't call for it, but I'm a fan of flavor. I'm going to add some garlic powder. Just kind of sprinkle it in. Probably like, well, half a teaspoonish. This is just Italian seasoning. It's like a Italian seasoning grinder. Which I probably won't ever buy again. It's just really annoying. Just sit here and grind and grind and grind, and that's probably like a 1/4 of a teaspoon, and I really like more like a full teaspoon, but there's no way I'm gonna sit here and grind for that long, so that's just what we're gonna have. And then probably like a 1/4 teaspoonish of red pepper flakes. I have some oregano and basil. I'll just kind of, again, eyeball those, maybe like a 1/4 of a teaspoon each. It might need more in the end, but I doubt it. And there's already seasoning in those tomatoes and in the sausage, but I'm a fan of flavor, so that's what we're doing. So I'm gonna put this lid on and we're gonna turn it to slow cook on low for 4 hours.
I really wanted to get it right, trying to find some balance in my life, but I never really put up a fight, didn't follow my dreams, and now I'm losing sleep. What if I...
Okay, let's try this soup. So it's really good flavor, but for some reason, it's really liquidy. Like, I've never had, like, I'm guessing that it could be because I used the multi-cooker, like the Instant Pot, instead of a Crockpot. So there was less evaporation, maybe. But it's like, this is just like straight up broth. I mean, it is creamy and it's got really, really good flavor. But like when you look at the picture, I'll put it up on the screen. On the website, it's like, it looks like straight up, like just tortellini with sauce. Like it looks really, really thick. this is not really, really thick. I mean, it's still delicious. It's just not really what I was expecting. So if you're wanting it to be that thick, you may need to use less chicken broth than it called for, or don't do it in a multi-cooker. But you should try this. Like, probably, like I said before, the easiest recipe I've ever put on this channel, and flavor-wise, it is really delicious. All right, we're gonna work on some baked potato soup. I took a few liberties with this one. I'll talk you through it. So we have some reduced fat sharp cheddar cheese, some center cut bacon. Recipe called for light sour cream, but I still have this 0% Greek yogurt. It's a perfectly fine substitute. It works great. Recipe called for skim milk. You know I use the cashew. Recipe calls for chives. Chives cost $1 bajillion and green onions are just as delicious. It'll be fine. Called for a pound of russet potatoes. This is a little bit more than that, but it's close enough. Also called for a pound of cauliflower. This was the smallest head of cauliflower I could find, and it's almost double that, I think. So we'll just have more soup. It's fine. Chicken broth and salt and pepper. And I'm not really going to follow the instructions that she has for putting this soup together, because here's the thing. She wants you to pre-cook the potatoes, steam the cauliflower all by itself, and then put those in the broth and milk, and then blend them. So I'm not doing that. I'm going to use my pressure cooker. I'm going to steam the potatoes and the cauliflower with the chicken broth. And then once those are done steaming, I will puree them with the chicken broth, and then I will add everything else and let it finish cooking, because yeah, I'm not about that life with a million different steps when they're unnecessary. So let's do this. Okay, so another deviation. I'm going to start with the bacon so that I have, because they're just having you use this as garnish, which I'm going to do because I don't want pureed bacon in my soup. Gross. But I am going to cook this in the pan where my soup is going, because I want that flavor in my soup. And I already have the calories, so why wouldn't I keep the fat and delicious flavor in the soup? So anyway, I'm going to cut up the bacon, brown it in my soup pot, take the bacon out and set it aside for garnish. And then I'm going to peel and cut up my potatoes and my cauliflower and put them in my steamer basket. And we'll check it. All right, bacon's going in. If you do not have one of these for your Instant Pot, I highly recommend acquiring one. They make things so much easier when you need to do like pureed soups and things, because you can just put anything that you want to puree in here. You just lift it out, throw that in the blender or food processor, ladle a little bit of liquid in with it, and you're good to go. The other positive about doing it this way is now I have all that beautiful fond on the bottom of the pan that I can deglaze, and that is just flavor. Because I have so much more potato and cauliflower, I'm going to do a full 2 cups of broth. I may regret that, but it's unlikely. Just scrape up all that goodness from the bottom of the pan. So even with all that extra potato, cauliflower, and chicken broth, there's still only 216 calories per serving of this soup, and they are going to be very large servings. Okay, so I'm just going to put this steamer basket down in here, and I'm going to put the lid on. Let's put the lid to pressure, and I'm going to do pressure cook on high. I'm going to do it for like 40 minutes. I know that's overkill, but I just want to make sure that those potatoes and cauliflower are super, super soft. Hey guys, sorry, I just realized part of the green onion or chive goes in the soup, so I'm gonna stop this before it gets up to pressure, and I'm gonna take 2 green onions and just kind of roughly cut them up and throw them in with the onion and the potato and the cauliflower, and then the other one will just be used as garnish with the bacon and the cheese. Alright, I'll throw this in the pressure cooker. And I already measured my 1/2 cup of Greek yogurt and my 1.5 cups of milk. Check that it's tender. Oh yeah, we're good. What about you, taters? Oh yeah, those should be good and smooth. That was definitely more liquid than I needed, but that's okay. I'm gonna blend her up. Let's pull you close up, tone it down, though. I'm gonna dump the sour cream in here. Ooh, it's steamy. So that I can make sure that it gets good and incorporated. I forgot we still haven't seasoned this at all. Put some salt and pepper in here. Ooh, it still tastes good. Potatoes can take a lot of salt, you guys. They kind of need a lot of salt. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna do some white pepper. So if you've never used white pepper, that's what it looks like. And it's super yummy. You should try it if you never have. It's not as spicy as black pepper. It's just got a really nice savoriness. It's almost a little bit floral. I don't know. I'm not probably describing it very well, but it's delicious anyway. All right. Oh yeah, buddy. I'm gonna run the cashew milk in the blender to try and get some of the stuff off the sides. All right. That is a thing of beauty. And it does not taste like cauliflower. If you haven't seen my chicken corn chowder recipe, oh, I'll put it in the eye in the sky. All right, let's taste this, make sure it has enough salt. It has like butter. That texture is beautiful. I'm really glad that I sauteed the bacon in the pan and I used those drippings. But it straight up feels like this is full of cream, even though there is no cream. There isn't even full fat milk. I mean, there is a teeny, and I mean teeny bit of bacon fat, like probably less than a tablespoon. If you wanted to make it richer, you could probably add some cheese to the base, but I don't think it needs it, honestly. It's really good. All right, I'm gonna let that kind of simmer and get to know one another a little bit, because I think it may still need a little bit more salt. But then we'll eat some lunch. All right, so I'm going to be serving one of these with my soup. These are delicious if you've never tried them. They're fully baked and everything. You keep them in the freezer and you just throw them in the oven at 350 for 12 minutes. They're super crusty on the outside and soft and happy on the inside. And you want to shove them in your face and eat them because they are delicious. Okay, bye. Okay. Tater soup. It's a little hot. It's really good. It feels a lot richer than it is. I don't know why. But the texture is really smooth. There's that little bit of fat from the bacon, but it's like, when I say little, like with this center cut bacon, 3 slices, it was less than a tablespoon that was sitting in the, I mean, maybe a tablespoon, but like for 5 servings, maybe 6, because I had more potatoes and cauliflower than the recipe called for. So I don't know. I'm glad I held off on adding more salt, because once I put the cheese in there, it was perfect. And the little bits of bacon. And then this bread. I want y'all to hear this. And I only used a half a tablespoon of butter on the whole thing. So like a quarter on each half. A little less than a quarter on this half, because this half is smaller. But this is really yummy. To dunk in this soup. This soup feels really fancy. I don't know why pureed soups always seem really fancy to me. It's like that's what they do in fancy restaurants. They give you pureed soup. I don't like baby food, but this is delicious baby food. Y'all should make this. This really wasn't that hard. I mean, the hardest part about it was blending it. And if you have an immersion blender, that would be way easier. That's what the recipe calls for. I don't have an immersion blender because I have a Vitamix. So y'all should make this. It's really yummy. All right, we're getting ready to start on this tomato bisque. We're going to need some butter, some
I'm using canned tomatoes. The recipe calls for fresh, but it is not summertime, so the canned is going to be a lot better. Plus, these are San Marzanos, which are delicious. Recipe calls for fresh herbs. Not using them. I have basil, parsley, and bay leaves, onion, garlic. I'm going to use some parm rinds in there. We've talked before about how that adds a ton of flavor. And then there's some Parmesan for serving. And we have a carrot and some 0% fat Greek yogurt. My husband likes ground beef in his tomato soup, so we're going to do that. And then we're going to serve these guys with some grilled cheese sandwiches.
Dancing closely together and staying forever young. What about you and I then? Can we two find a way to align with each other? Let's move closer to a new history. Find out what we can be together. Take my hand and we will conquer the world. This is our final chance. 'Cause one day we'll be looking back at this. We were in a big mess together. But we found a way to choose right from wrong. We found the strength to go on together. To go on together. Yeah. To go on together.
Okay. Tasty soup. It's really hot. That seems to be a theme. A pretty good tomato soup. It definitely needed all the extra seasoning I added. And I did add a couple of pinches of baking soda. That trick that I learned from the chili. It's really quite tasty. I did make grilled cheeses again. If you're interested in how I make my grilled cheese, I'll put the eye in the sky thing. But, of course, you have to dip it. Pretty good. It would have been better with white bread, but they didn't have any. So. All right, guys, that's it for this week. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a like and let me know in the comments which recipe you're planning to try. I post cooking and weight loss videos every week, so if you haven't subscribed, be sure to do that and hit the notification bell so that you know as soon as my results video goes up later this week. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.